After President Biden announced he was dropping out of the 2024 race for the White House, our next guest took to X, calling for an open convention and said the country now has a, quote, unique opportunity for a better moderate path, unquote. He also got into it with Elon Musk, and so we're going to get to it on all of it with our next guest. Joining us right now, first on CNBC, is investor Vinod Khosla, founder of Khosla Ventures, and somebody who's donated for a long, long time to the Democratic Party. Vinod, it's nice to see you this morning. Lay out your case in terms of, just before we get into the Elon of it, how you're thinking about what an open convention would be and who you think would even emerge to be in such an open convention.
Oh, Andrew, just to correct your statement there, I'm an independent who's contributed to Democrats over climate issues, but also to Republicans, including John McCain and others in the past. I do think we should have a process because we didn't have a Democratic primary, so it's important we have a process. I'd love to see many more people. If Joe Manchin wants to run, great. I prefer climate candidates. But I do think we should have the process is more important than a coronation to get more support broadly. It'll even be better for Kamala. I believe Kamala can beat Trump, but I think it's pretty important. The process is important.
What do you think of her?
I haven't spent a lot of time with her. And frankly, most of the policies we've seen in the past 4 years are Biden's policies. As you know, the vice president effectively doesn't have a huge role in policy. I think she's a tough prosecutor, so she will be tougher than Biden. But we have to see what happens.
Is there
just watching the previous debate? It's been clear Democratic presidents have done better than Republican presidents on the economy in the past, but despite the narrative, I do think an independent middle path is what this country needs more than anything else.
In terms of a potential running mate for her, is there somebody you would like to see join that ticket if that ultimately is the ticket?
I don't have a preference yet. I haven't seen the slate of candidates he's considering. I was more focused, and this was before yesterday as things were breaking. I'm very much and still am in favor of an open convention.
So, but part of the issue is that there may not be an open convention, partially because she's been anointed potentially, and partially there's a question mark as to if you were a candidate or somebody that you thought could be a nominee, and I'm thinking of Governor Whitmer or others, maybe you think to yourself, you know what, I want to try this in 28. I don't want to try this now.
Oh, clearly there's political calculus going on. I think even if she's the only candidate running, I'll be comfortable with that, because I do believe she has a good chance of beating Trump, and beating Trump is more important than winning the presidency.
So explain that. I was going to say yesterday, Elon Musk took to Twitter and said to you, come on, Vinod, Trump, Vance, let's LFG, let's just say exclamation point, exclamation point. And you took to him and you said, hard for me to support someone who has no values, lies, cheats, rapes, demeans women, hates immigrants like me. He may cut my taxes or reduce some regulation, but there's no reason to accept depravity in his personal values. Do you want a president who will set back climate by a decade in his first year? Do you want his example for your kids as values? Elon went back to you and said he doesn't hate you. In fact, I think he likes you. Meet him and find out for yourself. Would you like to have a meeting with former President Trump?
I have no interest in meeting him. I have made up my mind, so occasionally you do make up your mind. I think his supporting the January 6th and insurrection, trying to violate the democratic process, trying to support Trump, but the 2025 agenda, those are very, very dangerous things. Our institutions are more important than the economy the next 4 years. And then the economy and climate are two really critical issues. But frankly, his values and his support of the insurrection are what completely kills him for me, even if he would have the economy do better, which I don't think is true.
Vinod, how do you think about so many of the other peers and colleagues of yours in Silicon Valley that seem to have switched gears, if you will, being very vocal in favor of former President Trump?
Look, there's one group of people mostly around the PayPal mafia and crypto. Peter Thiel and his group, the PayPal mafia and crypto, just are fundamentally extreme libertarians. Nothing wrong with that. But crypto is not a thing that you should hang the election on. And frankly, I think Trump can be bought. They gave him enough money and he supported crypto in exchange. That's not how the process should work.
Well, you know, the description, and I thought it was, I rarely hear such hyperbolic Trump derangement syndrome just verbalized, just without any sort of embarrassment at all. But with that said, the other people that, and maybe you'll say all they care about is tax cuts or enriching themselves, but when you say that all these people, these good people out there, are supporting a rapist, treasonous insurrectionist, you're either throwing them in the same category as the person they're supporting, or you're saying that you're smarter than them for being able to see that in Trump. How do you feel comfortable? How do you feel comfortable putting people, some of your peers out there, in the same category as a rapist, insurrectionist, traitor?
No, what I'm specifically saying is they don't value those characteristics. They prefer less regulation, which is a reasonable thing. As
deregulation in their wall. It's all about money, all about furthering their own self-interest in their business. They're willing to completely ignore all this moralizing and judging that you're totally comfortable in doing.
I think values are important as examples.
So they're wrong
kids.
About they have no values.
I think they don't value enough. They don't value values enough. I do.
But you do.
I do value the insurrection. Right. I value long-term institutions.
You must feel very good about yourself. That's good. Okay.
Well,
that's fine.
Yeah, you can engage in hyperbole as much as you like. I just happen to disagree that we should elect a person like that.
Right, as you've stated. Okay, just a lot of people that do disagree with you, and I just don't think they're all bad people or deplorables.
I don't think they're all bad people, so let me be clear.
Well, they're stupid. They're either bad or stupid.
No, they can value values less than they value less regulation. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
Vinod, in terms of just of what comes next, and also I'm curious how you think about using your own pocketbook, if you will, to support one of these candidates. There's been a number of folks who effectively went to the sidelines and said, I'm not going to do anything while President Biden was running. How quickly do you think that changes? Obviously, we saw Kamala Harris raise something on the order of $50 million last night, but there's still a whole number of people who haven't come out. We've also haven't seen President Obama or Pelosi or Schumer endorse Kamala Harris. Is that a good thing, a bad thing?
If you want an open convention like I do, I think it's a good thing more people haven't endorsed Kamala. I do think Kamala can win the open convention, and she can beat Trump. But I think the process is as important or more important than anything, and a coronation will never be received well.
Vinod, we got to run, but I have one last question.
And Hillary Clinton are doing old-style politics, which is a shame.